Tuba has collapsed. So the government needs to have a more robust platform to enable them will whatever power, now that you've given some sort of guarantee that generating companies will be paid. When they generate, what do you then do if you are not able to will that power to the discos? And it's of grave concern. Under the current budget, I think only about 40 billion was allowed for transmission. Under MITO, the multi-year tariff order, this is the mix that gives you how you calculate your tariffs and go. What they anticipate should be spent on transmission is in the neighborhood of 400 billion. So we're looking at 10% budgetary allocation. And you just wonder, will this work? And when we talk about willing, we're not talking about you hit 5,000 one day. We are looking at hitting 5,000 consistently. Otherwise, what will happen is, oh, everything is working fine in a particular day, you hit 5,000. The next thing is drops. That inconsistency is an issue of transmission difficulties that needs to be dealt with. Capacity issues, upgrade of equipment issues. Most of these equipments are obsolete and all that. But we need to go the entire hog and address transmission and then distribution.
But there are plans to escrow the accounts of the discos. Do you think that is the cause of the shortfall? Will it really help?
Certainly not the cause. I mean, that's backing the wrong horse. Again, maybe it's politics. It's at times you feel you must sacrifice somebody for the ills in the value chain, and it's so easy to pick on the discos because they are the last mile and they're actually the face of the entire industry. They deal with the consumers, they collect the money, they have to provide meters. So all the quarrels that emanate from out of the industry, the discos face it. Don't forget, we're in a privatized regime. And it's no longer, you can't do things by fiat. There are agreements that govern the relationship. The government's representation on these companies is through the BP. There is a shareholders agreement with the BP. There was a share sale agreement. There are performance agreements.
These are legal documents.
These are legal documents that have been signed. If you want to go outside of these documents, so how can you escrow the accounts when the main basis for having the discos is the revenues they collect? When you take it from them, what is left in the business? Not only that, they want to declare what they call eligible customers. And what the government is doing is they are targeting the maximum demand customers. These are the blue chip customers, because what we find in many discos is that less than 20% of the consumers pay for nearly 80%. So the government wants to go for that. So they feel if they take those ones, then they'll get the bulk of the revenue and they can service this 701 billion. But the moment you do that, you're expropriating, in effect, the assets of the discos. You're going to open a totally new front for disagreements. That's not what we need in industry at this point. You need a holistic solution. The discos have screamed from day one that all the covenants by government were never honored from day one. And if I can refresh your memory, cost-reflective tariffs was one of the things agreed at the point of privatization. It's not been done. The ministries, departments, and agencies, they owe the entire value chain over 100 and something billion. It's not been addressed.
But there are talks going on in Washington, D.C. right now. It appears that the World Bank has decided to support the power reform program in Nigeria. How do you think that we can benefit from this?
Well, the best way is to always do what governments should do, create enabling environments for these investments to come. World Bank doesn't just give you direct cash. They can give guarantees. In fact, at the inception of this privatization agreement, the World Bank were there. They were going to give partial risk guarantees. But because of the inconsistent policy, they pulled back, which is partially what brought us here. Now that there is clearly the political will to now follow through with the privatization, they are talking again. So the World Bank is going to attract other agencies. There's the African Development Bank, There are other lending agencies. There are the big boys, GE and co. But whatever you do, charity begins at home. And that's why I said this whole idea of singling out the discourse for victimization is not creating an enabling environment. If you don't treat your own nationals well, why should anybody expect? Because even if new people come and take over and the atmosphere does not exist, they are surely coming into a loss situation. Not many people who invested, not any one of them calculated that the problems would be as deep as they are today. They tell you very quickly, oh, but you did a due diligence, you willingly entered into the contract. But many of us retort and say that, yes, we did a due diligence, but most of us had to go to data rooms. We could not go physically to check these assets because government had issues with labor. Bottom line to what we're saying is that create the enabling environment. It's worked in other climes. India, where we took our model from, they will tell you, they created a subsidy and supported for close to 10 years the power industry before they let go. It will always be like that. And don't forget, the commanding heights of the economy depend on power. So it is actually the catalyst for growth. So it should be given that priority. Once that priority is given, the exponential growth. I'm even looking at the commanding heights. Let's not forget the small and medium scale enterprises, the SMEs, your vulcanizer, your retail outlets. Most of them are burning diesel, petrol diesel, the high cost of capital cost of acquiring them. So you can imagine if you removed that operating cost from their books, they will employ more people. They will produce more. Many of us today live for the diesel company. So at times you just even wonder if this is not whole, the diesel cartel is not the one that's responsible for this slow growth that we all have. But the benefits are just too huge for us to start a blame game, whereas we should all put our hands to the plow and just move forward with industrializing this country.